Greetings everybody, I'm the beginner DM and this is my video about my setting. I have mostly stolen ideas from many other sources and I'm putting them together in what I hope is an original and interesting way. I came up with this planet that I called Terriss, which will be a sort of torus shape. The main continent that they will know of is called Bri'sat and will sit on the outer edge. So hopefully at some point, whether it's part of this campaign or a future story arc, they will be able to sort of travel north over the top edge and then discover that they find a second horizon rising above the horizon that they know and discover that their planet is actually this toroidal shape, which I'm hoping would be like a really cool and interesting reveal. Aside from that, their knowledge is going to be very, very restricted based on the history of the world. The denizens of this continent only really know of the First Age, which was a time of great power and technology and comfort, but at some point the gods came down in some sort of avatar form and started warring over the land. This razed most of the cities to the ground, and during a sort of final battle, the greatest warriors and magicians and these aspects just all of a sudden disappeared. It left the continent in mostly ruins, but at least there was now this sort of peace. The age after the First Age is the denizens refer to as the Lost Age, when people were sort of gathering back together, re-establishing cities, trying to save the knowledge that they could and rebuild. For about 200 years is what them trying to re-establish these cities, and at that time they have finally re-established three major cities, one in the north, the west, and the east of this semi-triangular shape around the continent. The Second Age begins as these three cities, which have established trade, decide that they need to establish a fourth city in the middle of the continent called Central, which they can use as a trading hub. At that point, they also decide that the leader of this centralized city is going to be a duke that the other three cities elect. The duke is elected for life, and at the time of the duke's passing, the other three cities take a year before they elect the next duke. And what I'm hoping to do there is sort of establish the potential for politics, and if they're not interested in going into the politics of it, there'll at least be some patrons that they know of that would be involved in that sort of politics, and they'd be doing things for a patron or potentially many patrons. It'll just be depend on how they're going to how the players are going to play. So part of the way that the world is after the Calamity, magic has dwindled. So at the time of the Second Age, most magics are pretty weak, but it seems that over time the magics are getting stronger, or at least people are learning to use stronger magics. For the players, they're not going to know the reason why stronger magics exist or don't exist, aside from the idea that I'm going to have of like ley lines that lay around the planet that have either been diminished or damaged due to the Calamity. So what I'm hoping is that there'll be enough there for the players to interact with, and as they grow in power, they would hopefully be doing things that would be facilitating the sort of repair of this planet, or the continued restoration of the planet, and from what happened in ages past. For the actual time period, they are starting after the death of the sixth Duke. So their campaign is going to be set right in the midst of a ton of political turmoil and lots of potential for subterfuge and shadowy dealings, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to introduce some kind of big bad evil guy that is either trying to get himself elected or is being a puppet master behind the scenes, and they'll eventually have to deal with that whole thing. Aside from that, I really hope that I'll be able to get stories intermixed with the characters that are personal to them and their backgrounds. From my granted limited play compared to a lot of other people, the stories that I tend to remember most are not the ones where we fought the next evil guy to save the world, but that had some major development for the character and their story, how they became stronger, how they changed their view on the world, how they became a different player. So I really, really hope to be able to mix in a very generous portion of that for each of the players in my game. Aside from that, I am the beginner DM, and I have no idea what I'm doing.